Did you know that your personal doctor can play a critical role in strengthening your VA disability claim? That's right, your doctor, although may not know anything about VA disability claims, can truly help you develop the evidence you need to win your claim. This is an important video. This is an important topic that I'm going to talk about today because a lot of us veterans are going outside and getting independent medical exams or opinions from doctors that specialize in this stuff when we don't necessarily need to. Now, I'm not saying not to go out and do that because I do think that those services are great for a lot of veterans, but they're not always necessary. I myself have used several of my specialty doctors to help me out with my VA disability claim, even though they didn't know anything about VA disability claims. They were willing to help me out because I had an ask of them that made sense and I had done my homework. And you can too, and I'm hoping that's what you get out of this video. I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about why using a personal doctor is a good idea. I'm going to talk about some things that you need to do before your appointment, and not the day before your appointment, not an hour before your appointment, but several weeks or even before you schedule your appointment. And then I'm going to talk about briefly, because most of you will know, but I'm going to talk briefly about what to ask during the appointment and how to submit the evidence to the VA. So moving forward into why your personal doctor, that's a great question. And a lot of you are probably just like I was, where you're like, my doctor doesn't know anything about VA disability claims. What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? Is it going to even sound right? That's not really what they're here for. That's what the VA is for. And all those are right. And those are good ways to think about this. You just got to figure out what you're comfortable with asking. But, you know, as everyone knows, the VA makes their decisions for these claims based on evidence, whether it's medical evidence or, you know, evidence from a layperson or yourself, you know, a buddy. It's all got to be based on evidence. And your personal doctor is really a good resource for strong medical evidence. I mean, just a few advantages to using your personal doctor that I listed here on my notes is, number one, they're going to have more familiarity with your medical history and your specific conditions. And if it's a specialist, which in my case, you know, I had specialists helping me, they're going to be more familiar with that type of disability or whatever diagnosis you have. I just a real quick funny story. I mean, I talk about chronic sinusitis a lot on this channel, and I had been seeing an ENT for years, and it's not like this, you know, this ENT was a specialist. Like, he knew everything. Like, he diagnosed me with everything before the VA was even involved. And I would go to a VA disability or CMP exam, and they would deny me because the physician assistant or nurse practitioner that I was seeing just didn't see it on an X-ray or you know, they didn't see it, so they just couldn't diagnose it. And they would tell me straight up they don't have it. Meanwhile, you know, I've got the CNT that I've been seeing for years, you know, that's doing MRIs on me with a completely different opinion. And I will say that when I started hand carrying my medical records from that ENT to these visits, I started getting a much more positive response. So another advantage to using your personal doctor is potentially more thorough and less rushed evaluations. You know, that's not always true, right? Like, doctors are trying to get in and get them done, but, you know, they know that you're their client, you're their patient. They are going to take their time with you. All the doctors that I have seen outside the VA have been very patient with me and have, you know, addressed all of my concerns. So I do agree that, you know, you're not gonna have a doctor trying to get you in and out of there, especially when you have more questions to ask. And if they are rushing you or they're not, you know, the right doctor, start seeing somebody new. They may also have more time and resources for detailed assessments compared to, you know, your VA doctor. I can tell you that, you know, I hear a lot about VA doctors being required or they should give you, they should be able to help you out with your VA disability claim, but I've never tried personally. And I know who my VA medical doctor is. He's a nice guy, but I really don't think that he would take the time to help me out with any paperwork for a disability claim, quite honestly. All right, number 2, so steps to take before your appointment. Remember, I said to be prepared on this one. You gotta take a look at the little bit of criteria that I threw out here and be ready, well before you make that appointment. You want to, number one, you want to know what you're going in for. Like, what is your objective? What disability claim are you putting in? And you want to educate yourself on that disability and how it's service connected, and then like where you are in the rating criteria, right? So there's 3 things there. What is it that you're going in for? Like, what's the disability? What's the diagnosis? How is it connected either to service, or is it connected to, another condition that you already have connected? And number 3, where are you at in the rating criteria? And I tell a friend of mine that I'm working with right now, look at the rating criteria before you go into that doctor's office. If you're already connected, all you need to know now is where you think you are, and then try to get the doctor to look at it and see if the 2 of you agree with that, or simply show the doctor the rating criteria and ask the doctor, where am I at here? And the doctor should be able to help you figure that out. You want to make sure that you get all the necessary documents that you need. It may not be anything, but if you've had MRI reports or you've had x-rays in the past, or maybe the doctor at the VA did your x-rays, bring those in so they can take a look at them. You also want to bring in your service medical records, or any private or VA medical records that are relevant to the condition that you're going for. I say bring your service medical records related to that, because they might be able to draw a line from when you were going to the doctor for, let's say, I don't know, let's just say it's hearing or something, and you did go to the doctor because of a loud bang that you heard, or some noise exposure that you had, or even like hearing test where you had where it was documented. Bring those in so the doctor can see it. In one of my cases, I brought in my medical records from the military when I was injured and on my neck, and I brought that into my doctor, and I just said, hey, is it possible that this current condition that I have, the neck pain that I'm having, is there any chance that this could have started when this injury occurred to me while I was in service? And my doctor reviewed it, and he did a really good job explaining how the degeneration process starts. And he absolutely agreed, and he even took it a step further and wrote me a letter versus just throwing it in my records. So bring that stuff to the doctor so you can paint a clearer picture. The doctor needs to understand it, and he or she won't be able to understand it if they can't see everything. You want to know before you walk into that doctor's appointment, before you set up that appointment, like what your goals are going to be. Are you trying to connect a disability to another disability that's already connected? Are you trying to get an increase? Figure out what that is and then go from there. Start at that level. If you know that you have a condition and you're currently rated at 10, but you want to be able to prove that you are at 30, and in your mind you're already painting a picture for yourself, that's good. You want to have that objective. You need that objective. You want to be prepared on how you're going to bring this up to your doctor. Are you going to call the doctor's office and ask to set up an appointment to talk to your doctor about some VA paperwork that you're trying to submit? Are you going to give them a heads up in that manner? Are you going to wait till you get there and say, hey, listen, I'm trying to get my VA records organized, and that's why I'm here today? How are you going to do it? Like, how do you want to do it? And it's really how you feel comfortable. I think a very easy way to do this is to call your doctor's office and tell the person who's setting up the appointments that you are trying to get your records straightened for the VA. And one thing you need to do is you need an examination from the doctor. And you need to talk to the doctor about a few things to make sure that it's right before you submit your paperwork. Now that can be a scary task, and believe me, I know, I've been there. You know, you're not sure like how the doctor's office is even going to take that. Are they going to? I can tell you that I think a lot of doctors will be open-minded and will help you. I think some will be taken back a little bit, and they might be a little worried about what they're getting themselves into. But I think it's a good idea to be upfront. Another approach that I want to extend out to you guys is if you're going through a VSO, and I know a lot of VSOs are terrible, but there are some out there that are pretty good. But if you're going through a VSO, maybe talk to your VSO about it first and just say, hey, like, this is where I think I'm at. Where do you think? And then, you know, your VSO will encourage you to get a doctor's note. You could call your doctor and explain that you're trying to get your VA records and that you're working with somebody at the county who's a veteran service officer. And they said that your next step is to go see your personal doctor and ask your doctor X, Y, and Z. Clear cut. It's not you asking, it's the VSO asking, but it'll be helpful for your records. Doctors understand that they're qualified to do it. And if they're your doctor, who else would be the best person to go to? They would, of course. So that might be one way to do it. Your doctor may ask you to explain the process to them. They might want to know, like, hey, so like, how does this work? You know, why is this important, the evaluation piece? And just tell them, like, hey, the VA is, it's a government organization, and they, when we're doing these VA disabilities, they want to make sure it's right, and they don't want to just take someone's word for it. They want a doctor to actually evaluate, and you're the one that's been evaluating me, and I would just, would appreciate it if you'd look at this and let me know where I'm at. Because doctors' notes are not always organized in the manner to where it's going to be able to translate into what the VA is going to read. And believe me, I mean, that's the truth, right? Like, I have looked at my medical records from my personal doctor and then looked at the criteria, and I'm like, this is crazy. I've even had those conversations with my doctor, and him looking at the criteria and he would just be like, this is crazy. So they need to know those. They need to know those things. Ask them to focus on like your symptoms, specific symptoms, the limitations that you have, and any medical history that directly support your claim. Like, they should be thinking about all those things when they're going to write in your notes. I had a podiatrist claim, or a foot issue, and my podiatrist, who, by the way, the VA pays for, which is pretty nice through community care, she agreed to write me some notes in my medical records. And I didn't have a very good conversation with her, prepping her on like what the VA was looking for. So her letter was not good. I ended up going back in and making another appointment with her and truly explaining what I needed. And she took that and said, you know what, let's get this right. And she sent me off for x-rays. She did extra tests on me. And then she wrote out, and I explained to her like how the VA makes decisions, what their standards were for evidence, and what their standards were for decision making. And she wrote a nice statement for me. She wrote up, included in my history, she included how she thinks that, the different activities that I partook in, based on an interview of me during the military, caused a lot of these things. So if your doctor knows what you're looking for and they know what information you have, they can truly make a difference in the medical evidence that you're submitting. So during your appointment, and I know I covered a lot of what's asked during the appointment, but just encourage your doctor that, everything that you talk about's got to be documented, right? It's the worst feeling in the world to have a nice long conversation with your doctor. You don't get to actually see the write-up usually until they put it in their notes. So just encourage them that it's got to be documented in detail. If they think that diagnostic testing is needed, please, make sure that is taken care of. And then, of course, ask for a detailed report on any functional impairments that are related to your claim. That would be helpful. If your doctor is willing to do it, have them write a nexus letter. You can go online and find a lot of nexus letter templates that you could kind of get started for them and let them work on it. I had one nexus letter written from one of my personal doctors, and I didn't give him anything really. I just gave him the full details, everything from my service treatment records all the way up until, he obviously knew what issues I was dealing with, and he wrote me a nexus letter, and he had no idea what he was writing. He just knew that he was trying to articulate in his mind why he thought my condition was related to my active duty service. And you know what? He did it. He was spot on, and I got connected. And at the time, not a super high increase, but it was a pretty good rating. So like after you get all that evidence, you obviously want to submit that to the VA. And I mean, if you can get a DBQ, that's great. But I think that if you get the notes for the doctor and you bring them into your CMP exam, the CMP examiner is going to do the DBQ. The problem with the CMP examiners, depending on what it is you really have to be able to articulate to them what the what the symptoms are to make sure that they click the correct box that matches with yours. Because what I've noticed a lot with the CMP examiners, if there's any like room to fool around, they'll just either not ask you or not or not measure your range of motion, and then you'll get the lowest rating possible. You have to redo this whole thing all over again. So of course it's better to get a DBQ filled out by your VA or your regular doctor, but those DBQs are so long, you may be asking for too much on the first go around, but honestly, that's really up to you. But do get all of your medical records, everything that you got submitted into the VA portal. You can do this, you can send it in by the mail. You can go to a VSO. I mean, hell, I'd recommend a VSO if you can, if you have one that works for you. If not, it's so easy to pop it in. Just put it in the system and push it up, but just make sure you have everything. Double check it, a bunch of times. Write yourself a personal statement, write how it impacts you. Make sure that you know which rating criteria you're going for, whichever one matches your symptoms truly. That's how you should be writing that. Listen, if you guys enjoy the content that I put out, I'm here just to educate you on the VA process. I'm more focused on motivating you though to go out and get this evidence and get yourself the rating that you deserve. But if you enjoy this and this helps you, this motivates you, this inspires you, click on the subscribe button or click a like button, share it with your friends. We want to get this information out to as many people as possible.